But good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. I'm Sam Titswell-Norris, the founder and chair of Independent Sponsor News, ISN, who are bringing this webinar with you today with our partners, BluWave. And this isn't our first session. Last session, we covered 4 practical ways independent sponsors could start using AI today. We had great feedback from that session, and today is promising to be just as useful. And AI has evolved incredibly quickly, but having access to the latest tools isn't the differentiating point anymore. Everyone increasingly has access to the same models, the same tools, the same capabilities, and the advantage actually comes from connecting those models to your own data, workflows, and the in-house institutional knowledge that you have. That matters especially for independent sponsors who often are running lean teams across the different parts of the workflow, sourcing, diligence, capital raising, the portfolio support that you give, and all the other parts of operations. And data plays a role in all of those areas, but it's often spread across multiple systems, multiple files, different teams, and it can make it really difficult to use it effectively. The good news is that you probably already have a lot of what you need. The question is how to connect it, prioritize what matters, do it securely and do it accurately without a big technology overhaul or a dedicated team that adds huge expense and labor to what you're doing. You guys have got to be nimble. And so that's part of the objective here today. And to help us unpack that, we're joined again by James, BluWave's Chief Product and Technology Officer, who leads product, data, AI, and tech at BluWave, was previously the founder at Fidelity Investments Artificial Intelligence Incubator. And we're joined by James, who's BluWave's Senior Data Engineering Manager, who built the data foundation behind BluWave's internal data capability itself. And today, James and will cover why AI tools often produce poor answers, what firms should do to prioritize when connecting their data, how to keep it secure, where the capabilities will have the biggest impact, and a whole load of other things. So this is about practical steps, as it was last time, practical steps you can start taking today, and not the AI predictions or system overhaul that you might be fearful of. So with that, James, Will, over to you guys for the masterclass.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sam. Really excited to chat data and AI enablement today with everybody. It's so important for us to get the right data, your company's data, to be available to you in a safe, secure, and quick way with our with your internal AI tools and beyond. So this really unlocks a bunch of the AI ROI that people are looking for. Um, and it's a lot of the basics of how to feel secure and in the data integrity and security of your data and get that to your AI systems. So we'll talk through that today. On the next slide there. Like at BlueWave, we run lean just like everybody. We're a PE backed company. We have the same people and data and governance headaches as everybody does. And we're going to share our journey towards this, which we're not saying it's the best way or the right way, but it's the way that's worked for us, and we're pretty happy with the results. So we thought we'd share that with the world. This is by no means saying it is the best or the only way, and we'd love to learn from your experiences too. But this was a key unlock for us over the last 6 months in the company, and we'd love to share the ups and downs of that from one PE-backed portfolio company to others out there in the ISN network and beyond. And I think the other thing is the pressure of the board, the founders, the internal employees, all the rest are really saying, what are we doing with AI? How are we going to generate return on investment with AI? And I think we're going to provide some of the roadmap over the next hour or so. Um, so I won't go through the whole agenda here, but let's start with like the basics here of why AI gives bad answers and why we don't see that return on investment. And it's not just the model. So the constraint is not the technology. And this is what I've been chatting with a bunch of CTOs across the industry. Um, Everyone can buy the same frontier models. We all have access to them. But the ones that we see pulling ahead, and in my position with BluWave, I get to talk to a lot of companies that are wrestling with this challenge, is those that have connected their own business, their own data, their own business insights to those models. So there's a few different limiting factors that prevent that, and we'll go through those in the next few slides. These are the three fears that I see from across the industry. So there's the fear of, hey, we're not moving fast enough. So this is a very helpful, productive fear, I think. It's like, hey, we need to move quicker. Things are moving very fast now in the world of AI, and we're not moving fast enough. So use that as a healthy fear to drive forward the company. Um, and then there's these other ones that have more guardrails around that. Our data could be compromised or stolen. Absolutely. Data is becoming, it always has been very valuable. But now in the world of AI, it's um, essential to the IP of your company and the valuation of your company. So protecting that data and making sure it's not something that people can easily exfiltrate is really important. Helps you sleep better at night and helps the company adopt the AI tools that are available to everybody. And then the third one is when you do get up and running, oh my God, the data's wrong and I can't trust it. So having a real depth of trust and a shared understanding of what each data element is has always been very important. But in the AI world, it becomes more important because everybody can access the data they need quickly. And if I'm seeing a different number than you are in my Claude versus your Claude or your Chat GPT versus someone else's Chat GPT, it loses trust quickly across a business. So we're going to work out how to diffuse that fear in the next few slides as well.
Yeah, and we'll come back to those fears in a minute, but just what does AI look like in your org today? If your org is like our org, we personally leverage Claude, although you can use ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever specific LLM that you prefer. But when you log in, you'll type a question in like, what was our gross profit in June 2026 versus June 2025? What it's going to do is it's going to say, hey, listen, I don't have access to your company financials, so I can't pull that. But here's what gross profit means. It's gonna, and then it'll offer, if you drop the information in, then it'll summarize that information for you. Basically, it's making you work to give you the answer it should be able to provide to you. Same thing with the second example. It's asking you, it's going to ask you for the information when really it should know this information because it's your organization. So having the information in there is key. And so that gap is the thing we want to resolve. A model alone, regardless of if it's a frontier model or if it's an independent model, whatever, the model alone doesn't know your business, and therefore it can't answer the questions that you need answered to make actionable decisions. It's the models plus the context. It needs context to understand your business and the specifics of your business and your industry to be able to provide you the insights you need, the answers that you need to really leverage this tool. And so Andrew Ng, he's one of the founders, if you will, of the modern AI as we see it today. He's done quite a few different things. He tends to like to say that data is food for AI. What does that mean? Well, if you can imagine, Claude or ChatGPT or something as a chef trying to cook a meal, it's trying to provide you with a delicious entree, if you will. but it's only as good as the ingredients that you put into it. Similarly, Claude or ChatGPT or whatnot, they if you give it bad data, it's going to give you a bad result. It's a bad recipe. And so it's so important that we not only give ourselves the access to these frontier models, but also give those models the ingredients, the context to be able to provide us a good meal or a good result. So back to those fears, those three fears that James alluded to a minute ago: speed, security, accuracy. We need the information as quickly as possible, but it needs to be secure so that it doesn't, the data your data is your lifeblood. It doesn't get out into the world, but then it's accurate every time that you ask the question. So no matter who within the company asks the question and when they ask it, they get the same answer. Now, when people historically have tried to tackle this, more often than not, they try to tackle these one at a time, and they'll try to get one fixed and then move on to the next. Well, we needed everything done quickly. We needed it done fast. We needed it done accurate now. And so we refused to just pick one. We approached all three at the same time.
Yeah, I think I mean, look, with this, yeah, our journey started with just one question is could we connect our data in a way where all employees had the same access to be able to get what they need as quick as they need it is just magical. And it really changes the conversation across the company when people start to have access to finance data, sales data, operations data, portfolio data, whatever you need, you can get it in a few clicks. Whereas, or a question straight to Claude. Whereas in past times, you'd have to, I don't know, ask an analyst and it would take a while and you get back stuff that was somewhat correct, but not really what you wanted. And a week would go past. Like this is just night and day, the capability we've unlocked just by providing safe and secure access to Claude. And it all started with just that one question is how do we do this? That's the impetus across the business.
Yeah, and so the culmination from that one question and the work we said, let's build this. And so I say, welcome, meet Jarvis. This is what we call our specific solution. And you don't have to name it. We just like to name things at BluWave. But Jarvis is our solution that allows us to basically ask Claude a specific question about our business in plain English, and we get an accurate, governed answer. You're not going to have to write SQL. You don't have to go find a dashboard in Sigma or Tableau or whatnot. It's there. You just ask the question, it presents the answer. And if someone asks the same question to Claude, it's going to give the same answer. Because really, the insight is what matters. I mean, we want you to be able to get the information as quickly as possible. This was our solution to that. So if you'll bear with me for just a moment, I'd like to show you a little bit about like how it works. So for those of you who use Claude, you've probably seen this screen before. You log in, it says good morning or good afternoon, Will, and then how can I help you today? Same thing in ChatGPT, same thing in Gemini, same thing in all the different LLMs. You go to the website, you click in here, you ask it your question. So for example, say I want to know within my organization, how much has our AI/ML advisory projects grown over the last year? And for the purposes of the demo, I told it to just show me the percentages. And so as you saw there, the first thing it did was it went out there and tried to find the tools. It found the tools. It's like, oh, there's the tool that I need. I've got a connection to your data. Not only do I have a connection, but it's a governed and secure connection. How do I know that? Because it's providing that information. It's like, hey, look, engagement volume, something that what you just asked, that's actually a metric that is governed. What does govern mean? We'll come to that in a minute, but suffice it to say that we've all agreed within the organization that engagement volume is defined this way, so that whenever we ask the question about engagements, we immediately get that same answer. Everybody gets the same answer. Not only that, but Claude's also telling me, Jarvis is actually telling me, hey, look, this was just refreshed. We queried this yesterday, and it gave us the most recent thing. It was accurate as of a few minutes ago. Very clear, very obvious. Not only is it governed, but it's accurate and it's the speed is answered well. It's right now. So I just restarted. It's okay. So then it's also going to provide you, just like Claude does, it gives you some, hey, here's some additional follow-ups. Oh, this is great. How about I ask an additional question real quick? Say, what are the top 3 trends driving the ML advisory growth? And again, it's allowing me to drill down on the fly in the moment. We can ask the question, an additional question. It's going to drill down into it. And it says, okay, here are 3 trends that I'm seeing within your data. You can see these here. The point is, and the important thing is that it's able to do it right then for you in front of you. It tells you that it is a governed metric, it is accurate, and it is, give me a second, guys. There we go. My apologies, I can't pause it, but that's okay. It tells you it's governed, it's accurate, and it's recent, so that you can see that the data is good for us.
Yeah, that Jarvis, that particular insight that came up there, that AI/ML demand is up 322% year over year, is eye-opening for us as a company, and part of the reason we're having this conversation with everybody as well is just we are seeing in real time a massive shift in the industry when it comes to needing to understand and find the right um, talent, thought partners, consultants, what have you, in order to take advantage of AI. So, using AI to understand that AI is a big driver of the industry at the moment, and really put a number to it, is very helpful in setting corporate strategy. So, you know, going back to the speed, security, and accuracy, and those 3 fears, we answered them over the last 3 or 4 months here as, hey, we're not moving fast enough. Yeah, we are. We're moving super fast now. Everyone has access to the data. They can draw insights. They can get out and build businesses, calculate ROI in real time, have a depth of quality when it comes to decision making that they could never have had before because we've got data right there at their fingertips. Security, our data could be compromised or stolen. We've secured it first, and we have guardrails by design. And we'll go into that in the next few slides here of how we actually did that. But we've tried a ton of different ways to test those guardrails and feel confident that it provides the right level of security given the risk. And accuracy, the data is wrong and we can't trust it. So we'll walk through how we've defined our numbers once as a company, and then we've used Claude to govern and make sure that everybody is seeing the same numbers. So we're all running off the same plan rather than having different data sources and different dashboards in different parts of the business tell us different things. So those are the ways we've answered those 3 fears.
Yeah, and I'll just hit the block down here at the bottom because I think it's so important, and we'll talk about it again in a moment. I can't say it enough. Don't be afraid to get started. Don't try to do it all at one shot. Bite it off and take a little morsels. You'll see us how we did it in just a moment. But the key I want to make sure and push is that don't worry about getting started. Get started. Don't try to do it all at once.
So speed, starting today compounds value in months. So I can't stress this enough. If there's one thing you take away from this is just get started on working out how to get data into your AI tools. Um, your first move needs zero technology, and that's true. We just got to identify what are the top 10 metrics across your business. Like, what are the top 10 things you care about? And how do we reverse engineer those 10 metrics to be able to explain them to anybody or everybody across the company But most importantly, how do we explain those to Claude and say, hey, Claude, this is how we define each one of our top 10 metrics. And you'd be surprised how much value you get out of just 10. Obviously it's the starting point, but my goodness, if you all, when I say gross profit, it's the same across the business. That's tremendous. We're all going off um, the same definition. And the reason why to do it now is that everybody wants answers. The expectations are going up from people because they're used to being able, they're now getting more and more used to being able to ask AI anything and getting it back in seconds. That same expectation will hold for your company data as well. So I think the real key takeaway here is just get started because your first effort will probably be pretty limited and small, but your 100th effort will be amazing, and that's what we're seeing. How to get started? I know this is a bit of an eye chart here, but and we'll provide the presentation as well to everybody after the chat here. But first place to start is, well, there's two places to start simultaneously, and they're very related. Is to secure it, understanding how you're going to secure your data, and also starting to work out your governance layer, which is pretty much that top 10 metrics thing that we're going to get into next. Is like, okay, so who's actually defining that? Who in the company knows the data well enough to be the guide, the river guide, if you will, for the journey ahead. And once you do that with the governance and security, you start to define those top 10 metrics, and you can refine those further and further as you want, and add in a whole bunch more metrics as you get that signal from internal users in the company. Roll out with a pilot group and then go company wide. We went with company wide mandatory training, and everybody here at BluWave has an Anthropic 101 certificate. That's free. And we combine that training with training on Jarvis itself, and use Jarvis to build a training module. So everyone's gone through that and is certified in both Anthropic 101 and also Jarvis, which is our own internal tool. And then you'd be amazed by how easy it is to iterate and improve once you've built your first version of a Jarvis. Um, I mean, the internal teams at BluWave come to me pretty much, I don't know, every other day it seems, with a prototype they've built using Jarvis and the company data, and say, hey, look what I built. Can we turn this into an enterprise-wide platform or what have you? The innovation that we've unlocked with this platform in Jarvis is compounding, and we're seeing a lot of benefit from it.
I do want to jump in there, James, and just also reiterate the training. It sounds silly, but really asking everyone just to do that Anthropic 101 training just breaks down the fear of using it for those who still have a fear of using it, as well as gets people to into the data and start playing with it. And just by the very nature of doing it, they start playing, segging over into playing with Jarvis at that point as well. So I can't emphasize enough how important it was for us to ask everyone to do that training. It led us into quite the adoption rate, if you will.
That's a really good point. I mean, I think with AI and in my career of introducing AI techniques into products, there's nothing better than when the business experts, the people who've been doing it for decades, understand a little bit about AI, or enough about AI to suggest the right use cases and projects to jump on. So getting that training into the zeitgeist of your company is super important, and will come back in high multiples in terms of ROI when a business leader reaches out with the exact right use case for AI. And as a technologist or a product person, you don't have that level of business understanding, so it's super important to get that training across the company.
And it's free. I mean, it takes a
Right.
little bit of time for each
Yep.
individual, but the cost is free.
Yep. Well, it takes about an hour and a
Uh,
half.
yeah, it's not a big deal.
Yep.
So that's the speed.
Yep.
Now, speaking about security, so security is extremely important to us. Our data is our lifeblood here at BluWave, and so we wanted to make sure that we did this right. And I can tell you right now that getting the data into the place was really not as hard as making sure that it was secure. This is the place where I spent a lot of my time and making sure that we got these layers in here. And it's not that it took a lot of time. It's just that this is where I spent most of my time and on the initial buildings, because we wanted to make sure that the data was isolated. In other words, if something were to happen, it's locked down. It's in its own little space, so that nothing can get to it except for Jarvis. That anything that's sensitive, like email and those types of things, it's not. It doesn't make it into that little isolated environment. What we call, you'll hear me say this, the sandbox. The sandbox is what we call that little space that Jarvis gets to play. So role-based access, we leveraged in our company, and you can use different solutions, but in our company, we use Microsoft Entra to define who sits in which group, and then those groups then have access to certain data. For example, there are certain people in the organization that have access to marketing, like our marketing team, that everybody else really doesn't care about. Well, why make that available? Same thing like finance. There's an important our finance team has access to specific finance related metrics that only they should have access to, and that is locked down. Only they can access it because their group, the finance team, is the only one that has access to it. Next thing is query limits. So we want to make sure that someone doesn't accidentally or intentionally pull down the whole table. There's a lot of data out there, and there's no need to pull all of that data down. So we make sure that we put guardrails around that to make sure to ensure that something doesn't accidentally happen. And I will, before I go to the next, I will say a funny note. So we initially tried to do this with a skill, and I'll talk in a moment about the skills a little bit further, but we tried to leverage a skill to define this. And Claude is such a great help. It wants to help you so much that every time we said, okay, only pull 100 rows, for example. Oh, it would pull 100 rows and then pull another 100, another 100, another 100, and squish it all together and then give you the whole thing. So why do I say that? It's important to know that the difference between when to leverage a skill and when to do something in the database side. In this particular case, we had to actually tell it on the database side. And in our world, we use Snowflake. That doesn't mean that you can use AWS or whatever, but in Snowflake, we actually defined guardrails in Snowflake that then, no matter what Claude tried to, in its way to help you, tried to do, that it was adhering to the governance that we as an organization have put forth. Lastly, we also installed audit alerts so that, and this is one thing you definitely want to do. You want to make sure that everything is logged behind the scenes. Why do I say that? Because you want to know who's asking for what, when, and how, and all that kind of stuff. But then if something is outside the norms, that you have the ability to alert yourself, let yourself know when something strange is happening, that you want to make sure that we can say, okay, that doesn't look right. Let's talk to that person and find out what they're trying to do. If someone is trying to constantly pull thousands of records, okay, what is it you're trying to do? Are you really trying to do some type of a summary or whatnot? Can we help you with that, or help you with your prompt? Design your prompt better so that you can then get what you need quick and easy. So these five levels, if you will, of security are the things that we went through to make sure that our business can get what it needs quickly, accurately, securely. So that's security. And then accuracy. James,
I was going to say that,
go ahead.
that security actually helps set up the speed. So until we had that security layer in place, people weren't super excited for us to just like run fast and get data into Claude. So, spending some time here will speed up the entire process and adoption.
That's a very good point. And then James, you alluded to it a minute ago, but this is where we really wanted to talk for just a moment. It's like accuracy is key, because if we don't give the same message or the same result every time, we lose our trust. We lose the if you will, the ability for the organization to have trust in what we're doing. We lose credibility. That's the word I was looking for. And the last credibility is one of those things that it's hard to build and easy to lose. Trust is hard to build and easy to lose. And so we spent the time to do a multi-layer approach. Initially, we as a business, we have DBT sitting on top of our Snowflake instance. You can have various different types of solutions, but we use DBT, where we had defined all of our different tables and all of our different metrics and our dimensions. Everything was defined, but it was all stuck in these, what they call YAML files. It's just a document that says this field means this. It was there. It was ready to go. And so what we did was we just pointed Claude to that and said, hey, Jarvis, here are the definitions to start with. And that was our first leg. That got us started. And then we started that got us up, I don't know, a week or so. But then the next thing we did, we said, okay, now organization, just like James mentioned before, what are the most important metrics to our organization? What are our top 10? Let's all talk about those. Let's figure out which ones are the most important. Let's agree on what they're defined. And then we leverage what's called the semantic layer in DBT to transmit or provide that information to all of our solutions, not just Jarvis, but our dashboards, any reporting that we pull out, everything gets the same information, the same definitions. And so that's that governance tier that you saw, whether or not it was a governed metric or not. That's what you were seeing in our demo. This is where that comes from. We use our definitions that exist, then we work with the organization to define those metrics and dimensions so that we have the trust and we keep our credibility as we move forward throughout rolling out all of our different metrics.
Yeah, so we can help you along the way for sure. It's awesome to work with Will. It's a real privilege, but not everyone has a Will or has the resources to find someone with Will's level of expertise. And what you can do is really just share your need with us, and we can find the exact fit resources, whether that's full time or a consultant or the right service provider to come in and help set you up. But having that right level of intelligence and aptitude for this type of work really helps move a business forward. So happy to help think that through with you and see what's available. Like it's AI is no longer optional. You need it. It's operational pretty much in every business that we speak to, no matter how far away it is from sort of the traditional technology or software industry. There's a lot of opportunity for AI to really drive your business forward. So we'd love to have a chat, and you can start a project on bluewave.net or bluewave.com right now if you'd like.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for that. If you have questions, please do put them in the Q&A box. I'm actually going to get started if that's okay. I had a handful of questions throughout that, but they're questions that that I feel every day. And the first one when I embarked on this journey was, am I okay to connect Claude or ChatGPT to our file server and to our email and get everything hooked up? Is that safe? Am I able to share everything? What does the SEC say about that? How should I think about it?
Yeah, I mean, it depends, and it depends on what type of industry you're in, what data protection agreements you've created with clients potentially. If you're in the medical field and you're got HIPAA regulations in the US, or financial services have different sort of regulations, so you need to be aware of those. Um, and what we did was look at there's connections between Microsoft and Claude they're available when they're written by Microsoft or Google if you're on a G Suite, and you can pick and choose what permissions you want to give Claude to get access to your email or file server. And we've we've chosen not to go with write access, for example, to email because we don't want AI writing emails and sending them out. There's a real conversation you need to have internally as a company as to what is the risk profile that you're willing to have with AI, and make sure those guardrails is in place. The other thing to really, and I can't stress this enough, is please make sure you're using a Claude or a ChatGPT or a Copilot or Gemini, where you are paying at the right level to make sure that they are not training on your data. So the last thing you want is that for some other company to be able to read all your email and kind of build a version of your company outside of your company. So that's why you need to be making sure that you're not on the free tier of any of those AI products. And it was the number one thing in our training program for our internal users is the big rule is don't use your personal AI for any data from the company at all. So there's a conversation to be had there between the ease of having access to email through Claude, which by the way is fantastic when you set it up the right way, versus the potential risk.
And James, well, if if you're sitting there as an independent sponsor and you're like, yeah, I haven't really been keeping track of this stuff so far. My data's a mess. It's a bit inconsistent. It's all over the place on my laptop in drives. Do they need a warehouse, data warehouse before any of this stuff works?
I think I can probably tackle that. I will say that as a data as a data guy, I would love to see everything in one place. But the answer is no. You don't have to get started. But I would highly recommend it. You can use Snowflake, you can use Microsoft, sorry. There's a lot of different ways that you can do that. But why do I say that? It's much easier to govern data if it's in one place. It's much easier to provide the confidence that you have in it. If it's in a bunch of different places, it becomes very difficult to do the things that we did, like with the semantic layer and whatnot, of being able to say, these are the certified metrics. This is the gold metric for X, Y, and Z. And so, yes, you can, but if you were to really put the screws down on me, I would say, please use something like Snowflake or AWS or something like that, because it'll make your life so much easier in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think you get started with what you have,
Yeah.
and then you know build out as the need warrants from there.
Okay, and I'm going to ask if anyone has any questions. I think we might. No, I don't see any at the moment, which is a good sign. Means crystal clarity, and hopefully everyone's connecting up their systems as we speak. Um, and f final question from me, just to give people time, perhaps as well. Um, from a cultural standpoint, how do you encourage the organization to get started and for people to use these tools available consistently, especially when there's sometimes generational shift. We scorecard all of our company and our employees every month. There's a bit of a name and shame. And often AI usage is inversely correlated to age. So how should we think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a big inertia in the business to keep doing things the way you've always done them because, hey, we've got deadlines and commitments and pressure, and we know what works. And experimenting can seem like a science project, and it's uncertain whether you'll get much out of it. But we were pretty strong in our convictions that Jarvis is going to change things, and there was a lot of people who were very excited for it at the beginning, and then there's sort of the second majority there of like, hey, we got to get into everybody to understand and just at least have it try it out. So we're pretty tops down of like, hey, you got to do this training program and you got to get certified in Anthropic 101, and that was investment we made across the whole company, and it wasn't optional. It was 100% required. And we kept track of who did the training and worked out who hasn't done it and made sure they did it. Um, That said, with that heavy intervention at the start, I haven't had to ask anybody to keep using it. Everybody just uses it. So it's like there's been no pressure beyond that first training to use the tool. You can use the tool or you don't have to, but it will show up in your performance, right, over time. If you're sitting next to someone who is using AI, eventually they're gonna probably be the ones that get the promotions and the bonuses and stuff over time. So it kind of has this self-reinforcing loop with AI. But it does take a bit of a nudge to the whole company to free up time for people to experiment with the next generation of how you're going to be able to do your work.
Yeah. A nudge or maybe excruciating peer pressure. Both work. We've tried them both.
That's
Uh,
good.
Guys, thank you. I think we are going to call time on it there. Let people get back to their busy days, sourcing, doing, and growing exciting deals. A reminder to everyone tuned in that the ISN survey is currently live for independent sponsors. There's all sorts of great benefits if you do complete that survey for us to show our gratitude, not least of all. Perhaps Will and James will even turn up to your office or home to help connect up your systems. I haven't asked them that, but we'll see. If you could fill in the survey, go to Independent Sponsor News' website or LinkedIn. That would be brilliant. Will, James, thank you. You guys really are the creme de la creme on these topics. Thanks for your time.
Great. Thanks so much, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.